Welcome back to Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp.
Rat!
Olaf is calling in reinforcements. It's not just him that will be fighting in the Blue Moon Army.
Easy there. I heard you the first time, oh bearded one.
Bearded one? Oh, why you?
Well, alright. Sure thing.
Okay, they said spying on them from the inside, so maybe that is still canon, that he was kind of part of their army for a bit.
Hang on there.
I will say, from what I remember of Advance Wars 2, Grid has some of the best dialogue. Well, yes, we will literally know what hit us soon, rockets and artillery shells, because that's Grit's thing. Gunfighter. Yeah, we're up against this guy who many people have said is kind of looks like Junpei from Persona. Though you'll see there's two of a new type of building facility in this map. Deploy troops carefully to combat his tactics. Let's go. This guy's design is actually more based on Daisuke Jigen from Lupin III. That even has that, that whole, I don't know what you call it, that stalk thing.
Andy!
Yeah, for the first time, and actually the last time for a while, let me just quickly look up my thing on the missions, because if I'm seeing this right, okay, actually we can deploy new units, I think, in the next couple of maps, but after that, we're not going to be able to deploy units for a while. You don't actually get to deploy your own units very often in Advance Wars 1, but we are here, so now all that talk I said about unit cost and all that kind of stuff, yeah, it's finally relevant. Yeah, so you get 1,000 per property, including bases, and I believe including your HQ.
Good luck.
I think there's actually only one type of property that doesn't count towards income, and that only appears in Dual Strike, so that's not relevant here at all. And yes, whenever you deploy a new unit, it is grayed out, so it won't be able to move. So yeah, we have two bases, we have 8,000. In fact, if we check in our intel and go to status, we have an income of 8,000, and Grid has an income of 7,000, though it's not really going to help him because he has no bases. And if he does somehow manage to capture both of our bases, well, we're pretty much lost anyway. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll talk about Grid himself soon, but we have 8,000 here, and we are facing down against a tank here, artillery, more tanks, a lot of rockets. Yeah, so we only have one tank at the moment, and that tank's probably going to get a little shaken up by the enemy tank quite soon, so we could get a second tank. Or yeah, here we go. I think I'm going to actually go for 2 recons on the first turn. Kind of like how the music sort of pauses there. But okay, before anything else, I need to talk about Grid. So, Grid is actually very interesting because I'm used to him in Advance Wars 2 and beyond, where he is broken beyond belief. He's actually quite different in Advance Wars 1. So yeah, peerless marksman with range attacks. He tends to dislike direct combat. His laid-back style masks his dependability. In other words, he's way smarter than Olaf, but not that that's hard. Grid's indirect combat units gain +1 to attack range. However, direct combat units suffer -20 to firepower. And here is the interesting thing. That includes his foot soldiers in Advance Wars 1. This is not true of later games, and that makes Grid way better there, because since I've mentioned earlier that infantry are really, really important units, infantry and mechs, foot soldiers, very important units, having a weakness in infantry is a really big deal in Advance Wars, especially in a multiplayer game where you will kind of suck at the capture game. However, his indirects do have one more range than usual, which means you need to really watch out for his rockets. They go 3 to 6 range, and yeah, Grit's rockets are really terrifying. This thing can shoot all the way down there, and his artillery may be able to shoot all the way across this riverbank as well. But the other interesting thing about Advance Wars 1 Grit is that his indirects do not have any increased firepower, only range, which makes them a bit less scary than they were in later games. But here's the thing though, Grit's power is absolutely terrifying, because when he uses it, not only do his indirect units gain +2 range, I believe that's on top of the +1 he already has, their firepower goes from 0 to +65, which is absolutely nuts. So Grit in Advance Wars 1 is kind of interesting in that he's very much about biding his time until he gets his power, but once he does get his power, bad things happen. So you don't want to have to, yeah, you got to be really, really careful whenever Grit uses his power. Okay, so I've actually restarted this mission here. This one's a little tough, it's taken me a few attempts, but this time I've built 2 recons to start with, because there's a long stretch of road here, and recons are very effective against artillery and rockets. But for now, not going to be a huge deal. We're focusing on luring in that first
Possum spit.
tank. I don't want to talk over Grit's possum spit, one of his catchphrases. Yeah, Grit's pretty reluctant about facing us. But unfortunately, things just kind of happen that way with war sometimes. I mean, yeah, you just happen to live in a country that invades another. Sometimes you don't really have a choice if you're part of their army. It's kind of what's going on with Grit in this game. Yeah, this isn't going to do a whole ton since Grit has that negative firepower from, yeah, his normal day-to-day abilities. Most of Grit's units are going to be taking more defensive postures here.
Andy.
Don't worry, he's found out what a transceiver is by now. Yeah, I already explained that. And, yeah, when he uses his power, it gets bigger by 2, and that's terrifying. Close friends, huh? Well, if you looked at her expression earlier, something tells me that more's going on there than she's telling us, but, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm going to use this artillery to take out this tank. This thing is pretty much at 70% HP. It's like barely on the cusp of 8 in terms of its numbers. Yeah, you might want to look at that thing. Yeah, I love how Grit reacts when you wipe out one of his units like that. Of course, when he gets a good blow against you, Grit gets pretty smug about it in this game. That's also kind of cool. We've got a recon incoming, and here's the kind of strange thing. I'm actually gonna stay where I am with this tank, because the thing with this mission is you don't want to rush Grit's territory too soon. The actual, like, requirement for getting a good score in this map for speed is actually not super high, so you do have some time. And in general, because we have a small starting force, I want to wait until I build up my forces before I make a push into his territory. Trust me, if you go in unprepared, he will really punish you for it. So, I'm actually going to build a mech here. In one of my earlier attempts, I misclicked and made a mech here instead of something else, but since we already start with an APC, we can get this mech to the front lines quickly, and it will help against some of those tanks. In fact, I wonder if I should get a second... I don't think I really need a second mech. I'm going to need some infantry later, though, to guard against these guys, because if you don't put somebody to guard your shoreline, you are eventually going to have your HQ and bases rushed. Grit's theme is so good. It's just... it's one of the iconic songs of Advance Wars to me, but it's probably not my favorite overall, but they did a really good job of it in the remake. Also, I like how the Blue Moon seemed to unfurl their, what do you call that when cars have, like, a hood that, like, you can... It's like a detachable hood that's sort of cloth-based rather than an actual roof. So yeah, some units don't look as distinct across the factions, but Orange Star and Blue Moon Recons do look quite different. So here this mech's going to get transported, but for now, I'm going to inflict some irony on Grip by destroying his units with my own indirects. The thing is, I do kind of need this artillery later to deal with the medium tank. The medium tank, as I've found from experience, will move and attack you when you get in range, so I kind of want to lure it down. The problem is, it's very hard to lure the medium tank and not get shot by this rocket at the same time. The thing about Grit is that his indirect ranges often overlap, and that can make it very hard to find viable safe zones to put your units. My tank is damaged at this point, which is a bit of a problem. I think I'll get a second tank after this. But yeah, we kind of have to head down below these mountains in order to get into a decent position. Not really sure I want to, like, put my recons there at the moment because we have the enemy tank incoming, but hopefully I'm going to have the mech ready when that happens. Let's see. Because, yeah, that one road space there is covered by that rocket, so we can't go there. Yeah, this tank can head down in here. I'm mostly just trying to clear up space for me to get some mechs in. Yeah, I could drop a mech into that mountain. Just want to make sure that I'm not... This guy can go into, I think, that. And I actually may want to get myself... So I have 13,000. If I build a tank, that'll give me 6,000 left. Definitely want another tank. I actually kind of want to go for another mech here. Just because I'll be able to transport that one in soon too. Again, being patient is the key here, just like Grit. His whole thing is being patient, and we kind of have to play his game for the time being. Yeah, that rocket is sadly doing a really good job of covering those mountains. In fact, yeah, this infantry is going to stay behind and be a shore guard, I think. He's not really going to be serving much purpose on these lines right now. The infantry are going to get distracted capturing these properties for a little bit, which is kind of a good thing, because if they were smart and headed straight over the river, we'd be in trouble. But, okay, that's not good. Yeah, that artillery right there is going to be a bit of an issue, because I can't attack it without putting myself in rocket range. I do, however, have 2 recons and a weakened tank ready to go. And I have this mech too, so here's the problem here is whether I... Well, firstly... Yeah, you're gonna go back here and pick up this mech. And now these guys are able to fire on these cities, so what I'm actually gonna do is set a bit of a trap and place my 2 infantry here. That way when the mechs come over the river, I'll be able to strike first from these 2 cities, and that's not gonna be a good time for both of those mechs. Right, now is the problem, because him moving that artillery there is incredibly annoying. I can get a shot at the artillery with my infantry, though, which might actually not be a terrible idea, if only to give his other units something to fire at that isn't, like, one of my more valuable things. Okay, this infantry may be taking a bit of a beating here, but typically infantry chipping down artillery is useful to do. Okay, good, that other rocket can't reach. Now, from the damage that I'm doing here, I probably won't give him his power. Because once Grit gets his power, then that's when things start getting really, really dangerous. Let me just see how he's going. Oh, he's literally halfway there. Yeah, I kind of don't like attacking from the road, but I'm going to go ahead and do this first, just so that my tank at least has the benefits of the defense. Yeah, that's not going to finish that artillery, but it is going to heavily weaken it. Problem is, this mech can't really go very far without getting hit by a lot of things. And I sort of want it nearby to potentially deal with that tank. If I put this here, though, it covers at least some spaces. Not a lot, but some. The actual real reason why I'm doing this is more to give the enemy more bodies to potentially fire on, because there's only like 3 units in this general vicinity, well 4 including that rocket, and I have more there, so I might be able to clean things up afterwards. And I think I will go with more tanks and, okay, another recon too. Okay, now we play a game called Please Don't Kill Me Grid, which is the game that you always play when he's on the field, because he's pretty terrifying. One thing that I will say about... Oh, he's running back to heal. That's interesting. It could be potentially dangerous later, though, because that's one more unit to benefit from snipe attack once he gets it. I like to make sure that he has as few things that benefit from snipe attack as possible. Oh boy, this recon is not gonna like this. The very least, my mech is safe, and my infantry is also safe. My tank is also safe. But yeah, I actually do like the way that Grit's playstyle works in Advance Wars 1, and I kind of feel like later games sort of, like, ruined the way that he works, because Advance Wars 1 Grit is quite interesting in the sense that he is kind of weak day to day, but his power is absolutely terrifying. And it kind of sums up the whole characterization thing he has going on, that he's really laid back and casual, but when you give him a reason to take things seriously, he will absolutely wreck you. Speaking of which, he's getting kind of close to having his power. But yeah, I did want to do this, and this is unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I don't want to give him more power charge, but this is somewhat necessary because otherwise these mechs are going to do bad things in my territory, and I really don't want that. I'm going to make sure that the HQ is safe. But yeah, getting the first strike on these mechs from the defensive cover of cities. This is why I like to say that infantry do kind of hard counter mechs one-on-one. But in this case, I don't really want this recon to... Do I have to be careful? This road tile here is the road tile of Ultimate Doom. We don't want to go there. How far can... Yeah, this is the... Oh, well, I can at least put the mech in a mountain if I do that. Right, okay then. I think this tank is going to head up there. There's an enemy tank over there. We also have my mech, and this is where low movement of mechs is a bit of a problem, but yeah, if I put this here, it is sort of covering some of my other units, like Oh, that's insanely tempting, but that means the recon will die. Again, patience is a virtue on this map. It's probably best not to just go charging in, guns blazing, because that's witch job, lol. But don't, like, go for a full-on attack until you are absolutely confident that you have enough forces for it, because you will need a lot of forces for it. So yeah, this tank here is in a situation where no matter what it attacks, it's going to be in a bad situation, because either this tank or this mech will be undamaged, so they'll both be able to get a big hit on it, and then potentially this artillery will also do a lot. Thankfully, my artillery is not in range of being hit by anything. If I go there, though, do I block the tank? I don't actually block the tank, that's good. I've got another mech incoming. I don't want to speak too soon, but I don't think I'm going to need more mechs. So the transport can now do its actual job of ferrying these mechs further forward, while now I can probably afford to get a tank every turn. An important thing about having, like, maps where you have bases is it's usually considered good practice to build at least one unit out of every base every turn. So, like, for example, if I got, like, a more expensive unit out of one of my bases, but I could build nothing out of the other, in the long run, it's kind of a bad thing compared to getting just one tank and one infantry. well, I guess he's going for the whole die APC die trick, like, the AI typically used to do. That leaves both the mech and the tank undamaged, which I was really not expecting to happen. Yeah, see, those enemy mechs didn't even do anything, because their AI probably judged that it wouldn't be an efficient engagement to shoot these infantry back. So, here's the problem. Okay, Grid's almost certainly getting snipe attack this turn. So, okay then. I really don't want to, like, actually start rushing him down now, but, because he has those things up there. But if I were to damage that rocket before he gets snipe attack off, that would actually be incredible. The problem is, I essentially throw away everything that I charge into his territory if I do this. So, like, one possible strategy for snipe attack is to back off, but right there. See, like, here's something that I was just sort of thinking. This game does have a reset turn feature, the remake at least, but the thing is, typically, you don't really want to reset a turn until you've seen the result of the enemy's turn. It's kind of like the Divine Pulse in Fire Emblem. Usually you don't know if a move is a bad move until you see the enemy react to it, and then you're like, oh, right, that happened, they can do that. So, yeah, it's kind of a little weird. I don't really find, so far in my attempt at this map, that the reset turn has actually been that useful. Although I have also heard that reset turn is kind of silly in Fog of War, because you can just do a bunch of scouting and then reset your turn and remember where all the enemies were. But okay then. Here's the problem. If my artillery stays where it is and hits that tank, Grid is going to snipe attack the artillery, and I need to keep this artillery alive to deal with that medium tank pretty much. So okay. Well, I think the first thing that I'll do is obviously do this. Now, in general, like, I talked more earlier about mechs being kind of overrated, but a mech getting a first strike on a tank from a mountain is generally incredible. This is the situations where mechs are pretty good, like if you can get them into a position like this, but it does very much rely on you having like access to good transports. In this case, I probably have to use the second mech to kill this. Could just mention a fun fact that I only found out relatively recently about, like, bazookas as a weapon. Bazookas are apparently named after a musical instrument, and the musical instrument predates the weapon. The weapon was actually named after the instrument as a case of, like, ironic humor, but then the weapon's naming became more popular, and so, yeah, people only knew bazooka as the weapon and not so much the musical instrument. That's kind of funny. Okay, yeah, so with his snipe attack now, it's only going to benefit that rocket and that rocket. However, these two guys are probably gonna die, so that's gonna be... okay. Unless I move in this weakened tank to try and give his unit something else to shoot at. I mean, that's possible. 1, 2, yeah, so we basically got this. Sometimes with long ranges like this, I do a similar thing that I do with siege tomes in Fire Emblem, and I use my own units as a marker. So for example, with an extra 2 range, this rocket will be able to hit this artillery and this infantry. So, I mean, I can put this infantry in the river. Like, again, what I'm sort of trying to do is I'm trying to give them a lot of targets and try and just, yeah, like, that's sort of something you can do with an enemy like Grit, because if you have, like, a lot of units in play, it means that, like, he doesn't have enough troops to shoot all of them. So, no matter what he hits, something is going to get through. And if I get even a couple of recons into his territory, these rockets are going to have a bad time. Yeah, again, I don't like exposing my artillery. The thing is, though, I will probably get hyper repair next turn, so I can kind of plan around that, and in that case, maybe I should leave this guy, but at the same time, I'm also very, very tempted to use this guy as a decoy right now. And if for some reason Grit doesn't shoot it, then potentially, unless I put the APC here, and then maybe... Because if I put the APC anywhere in range of that rocket, it's going to die. But if I put the APC here, maybe the 4 HP rocket will shoot the APC. I'm not sure. We'll see how this goes. And right now... I guess I can finish off this mech. It's not like it's really going to be much of a threat, but I mean, it saves me the work for later. And I need more shore defenders over here to stop these guys from coming through. Yeah, I've got a lot of tanks incoming, so... But I suppose there's no harm in making more. This is why infantry and tanks are really, really good units to build whenever you have bases, because they're cheap and you can get out a lot of them without losing bases.
Sorry to have to do this, but you've left me no choice. Snipe attack.
I love the Wild West sound effect on that. It's just so... Okay, yeah, good. Tank, wow, you served your purpose better than I hoped you would. You distracted the 10 HP rocket. That's incredible. Was not expecting him to do that. That is... Okay, the medium tank is also a... yeah, that died. Well, I mean, I should have seen that coming. It's plus 60% firepower. But... That was better than I expected. Grit's still down to, like, only minus 10% on his direct combat units, thanks to the... Yeah, thanks to the global plus 20% firepower that you get out of, using your power. And I love how his laid-back guitar becomes electric guitar while snipe attack is active. But speaking of things that I love about powers being active, I unfortunately only got my blind reaction to this in a failed attempt, but we haven't heard what Andy's power theme sounds like yet, and it's amazing.
Time for a tune-up. Hyper repair.
It's sweet rave dance party music, which I think really should be a meme. It's hilarious, but also weirdly fitting. It's just rave party electronica Andy. That's just like I don't know what was like going through their head when they decided on that, but whatever it was, I'm all for it. Okay. See, the interesting thing is, I actually am in a decent position to rout Grit on this map, which I wasn't expecting, and that means my APC dying is not like a hugely big deal, because I don't need to get to the HQ super fast. So it's just a matter of finishing off that medium tank and not suffering a whole lot of losses. Like, to be honest, I actually want to attack this infantry with the tank here, because, and this is a reason here why getting caught in a river is generally a bad thing. 0 defense. I like the way that rivers look in this game, though. But yeah, in general, catching infantry when they're in a river is not going to end well for infantry. Terrain with 0 defense is, I think in Wargroove, rivers actually give you negative defense. Yeah, Wargroove is kind of like a spiritual successor kind of game that people made when they realized that Nintendo wasn't giving Advance Wars any love, but now they have. But, yeah. Also, by the way, a turn like this is generally what gets you a perfect power score, though it's more relevant in Advance Wars 2's campaign, where the enemy can build units in most maps, and so the power thresholds for getting good scores are a lot higher. In Advance Wars 1, there's not a particularly huge, yeah, you get the idea. There's not like a particularly huge threshold for power scores. I can actually have this mech start going over the river, then it might be able to hit that rocket next turn. I still just cannot get over the epic rave Andy music. But also, yeah, I did mention this before, but a turn where you use your CO power like this, It would have been better if I put the infantry there, but, I mean, the infantry would probably die if I did that. But yeah, a turn like this is actually... Oh yeah, it was definitely +2 on top of his existing +1, so I was right earlier. But yeah, so... Okay, that infantry is in rocket range where it is. Although again, if I put it here, I might distract some of his units, and then the infantry will be able to hit that rocket later. This is like one thing about Advance Wars is that typically whoever has like the most units on the field usually wins, and again, that's why infantry and tanks are so good. There's a reason why infantry and tanks are the representation of Advance Wars in Smash Bros. Huh, the last time I actually fought Grid on this map, he didn't say that. He actually said, like, this is going to be a while. Like, this is going to be a long battle. So I think it depends on how well you're doing, which is... That's actually kind of a clever touch, if that's the case. Don't die, infantry, please. Just barely didn't die. Question is the medium tank going to attack the air? Oh, it's going to do that. Okay, that's actually kind of bad for me. I was counting on you going into range of, the artillery. But yeah, like, as I was saying, there is a reason why infantry and tanks are the assist trophy that represents Advance Wars in Smash Bros. Because they are by far, like, the most common and practical units that you'll see in most matches, and they let you overwhelm your opponent with numbers and, yeah, get a good, head start on that, and yeah, more numbers means more things for the enemy to shoot. It means they won't be able to stop, like, all of your troops, and it also means, yeah, that you have more things to use as walls, which again is not too advisable in the campaign, but might be needed elsewhere. Again, I do not like that medium tank being there. Because as fun as that would be, I may need to conserve the mech to damage that medium tank. Because, like, this recon can do solid damage to that rocket, but it can't really threaten that medium tank. So this is probably a better thing to do. I may be able to pin in that medium tank as well. Because if I can do that, and then slowly creep up the artillery, that's generally where medium tanks have problems, because they only have 5 movements. They're a lot more vulnerable to this happening to them. Actually, to be honest, it's probably better for me to move the mech here and not and then this tank here, and then not attack. But if I do that, the recon's probably going to die. I mean, yeah, either way, something's going to die. But as long as the medium tank is the only thing left, it's only going to be able to kill one thing. So if I hit it first with this... Yeah, that's typically, like, yeah, I mean, mech versus medium tank, it only took off 1 HP, but also the mech is worth way less, so it's actually a pretty solid engagement. But yeah, this medium tank is totally pinned now. Okay, yeah, see, it's only down to 7. Medium tanks are pretty bulky, and that's why I usually like having artillery to deal with them. They can be mobbed by large numbers of mechs or regular tanks, but don't really count on that. Like, something that I often, that I've seen in some, like, competitive games is that, like, typically, once your opponent starts having 3 regular tanks, you build 1 medium tank, and then that usually deals with them enough. I don't actually need those cities, and at this point, I'm probably going to do something that is kind of silly, but you'll often see me do on any map that has bases, and that is just repeatedly build infantry on the last few turns. This is entirely to inflate my unit count so that the technique score is easier to get. Days of Ruin changed the way technique is calculated to discourage you from doing this. Yeah, like, their dialogue is different based on how well you're doing. That's a really cool touch. And I'm pretty sure these lines didn't exist in the original camp. Yeah, I was hoping that wouldn't be a one-shot, but it was. Okay, that means I've lost 5. Yeah. 5 out of 21. Yeah, that is slightly over 20%. That's probably still enough for an S rank, but not enough for a perfect technique score. However, it would be kind of humiliating for this medium tank to get taken out via unit mobbing like this. But yeah, as its HP goes down like this, yeah, this mech only has 1 ammo. But as I've said earlier, if a mech ever runs out of ammo, it means that it's done its job very, very well. And yeah, the lower its HP is, the less likely it is to, the less likely this medium tank is to actually kill something on Grit's phase. I would need a pretty good luck roll to kill that thing now. But if I do get the luck roll, that's going to be good. Just in case I do get the luck roll and end this map, I'm going to build 2 more infantry just to again inflate my technique score. You cannot do this on maps with no bases, but on maps with bases, it's a good idea to just spam infantry in the last few turns. Oh yeah, just barely, didn't quite get it. It would be really funny if he got snipe attack now. Because it's useless to him since he has no... I mean, it does give him 10% firepower and defense, but he didn't get it. Okay. For ultimate iron... No, actually, wait, no. Before I do that, again... Yeah, this is kind of silly, but it does help with the technique score in any map with bases. And... Again, Days of Ruin did, like, change the way technique was calculated to punish you for doing that, but the way that technique worked in that game was also a little awkward in other ways.
Hey there, Junior.
Because it worked for both, like, it worked that way for both sides, which meant that you were rewarded by letting your enemy build more units, which I honestly think is kind of stupid for rankings.
Don't call me Junior.
With Grit's whole cowboy motif, this just makes me think of, my name isn't Shane, kid.
That's the spirit.
So, yeah, Grit actually was part of our army previously.
Well.
Stop calling me Junior.
Oh yeah, perfect score, nice. Okay, that is revenge at this mission taking me a few attempts. But, yeah, Grit is a way more dangerous opponent than Olaf, and that's not the last we'll be seeing of him. The good news is we won't be seeing him again for a little while. The bad news is that next time we'll also be dealing with a new enemy, and they are just as dangerous as Grit, if not even more so. So, I'll see you all then for actually my favorite CO in the game. Really looking forward to this. Okay, this is cool, the way they handle this theme when you've got your power active. It's like super rave music. Welcome to Andy's rave party, this is amazing.